Portland Henry?
Yes, sir, he's present.
That you in the back of the
Status conference.
Come on up.
And I guess you're already trial co-defendant right now. We're set for October 3rd for trial.
You had a motion pending as well?
Yes, Judge. At the court, when we were here the last time, you let him go to church and stuff, you said about working, you would be subject to seeing his schedule. We filed a schedule for the next couple of months.
I saw that.
Be able to work. And I talked to his probation supervisor. She has no problem with him at all. She said that if he's gonna go to work, she'd like anybody has to do, provide an itinerary, where he's gonna be, how he's gonna get there, how it's gonna get done.
Is it too late for Cortland to plea?
No, I don't think it's too late. It's never too late. I've had individuals been offered pleas but turned them down in the middle of trial. I've had people offered pleas before a verdict came back. So it just depends on the case, depends on the prosecutor, depends on the actual charges. So no, it's never too late for that. He could take a plea in the middle of his case. I don't think that would happen. If he was going to take a plea, if there was going to be a deal, it would be in the middle of Melly's case.
This is not looking good for YNW Melly. This exclusive interrogation video of YNW Bortlen has now been leaked, where YNW Bortlen describes the event on October 26, 2018, while he was driving home from the recording studio alongside Melly, Sack Chaser, and Juvie, where the 4 YNW affiliates would then quickly run into an alleged issue, as YNW Bortlen alleges a vehicle filled with rival street members pulled up to the side of their vehicle, began using firearms against the Jeep as they were jealous of YNW Melly's music career.
Let's talk about why. Are you having issues with anyone?
I mean, we are upcoming artists and stuff, so people like, you know, when you like start doing better than people, they start hating and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
So you had some jealousy issues.
Yeah, it's like jealousy issues. But goddamn, I haven't really been on there. But like he like my friend that's way now, God bless. He was telling me like, right, he always was telling me about how people, just like today, he was telling me some folks from up our way.
What's up your way?
Like Vero
Beach?
Beach, like that's where I used to stay. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up there. So that's our hometown. You know what I'm
So
saying?
what did your friend say about from Vero Beach? What was he saying to you?
He was saying basically just like they were on like Instagram, Facebook, like sneak.
Now, this was never revealed during the YNW Melly trial. However, it does relate to an interview 100K Track, aka YNW Melly's manager, did while the Melly trial was going on, where 100K Track answers the question of why he believes that it was a drive-by.
Who would want Melly and his friends? Did anybody ever him and the other guys before this happened? You know, Bortlen said this was a drive-by.
When you in the limelight and you're making money and things like that, you're gonna receive hate. You're gonna receive, you're gonna receive things from everywhere, from people you know, people you don't know, people who probably feel obligated or feel, entitled to things, people who might not even know you from the campaign and just don't like you. So, as an entertainer, your life is always, being somebody or someone.
As around the time of the crime occurring, YNW Melly's music career was just beginning to take flight. He was still continuing, however, to record at local recording studios. It is very possible someone in Florida could have known the location of YNW Melly at the time, as while at that time, YNW Melly was being recruited by 3 street teams according to cell phone evidence shown during the trial. However, 100K Track would even get into more detail about if it was a drive-by than who would have done it.
Bortlen said this was a drive-by. Have you ever thought about who would have done something like this?
It would have been, it would have been so much people, what I'm saying? It could have been so much people, because at the end of the day, this man was had jewelry, had a large sum of money and things like that, and don't know where it could have came from, but I do know it came from somewhere, and maybe one day we'll use our resources to find out who really did it and bring justice to the.
Which is a very interesting question, as during the YNW Bortlen interrogation from the year 2018, Bortlen would answer a very similar question, where you can hear the officer ask YNW Bortlen, if you know who did it, would you tell me?
By just telling me the truth, even if it's something that I don't want to hear, but I respect the truth rather than BS, okay? And it's a simple question. If you knew who did this, okay? You may or may not know. If you knew who did this, would you tell me? It's either a yes or no question. Answer.
Honestly.
Yeah, honestly. The truth. You wouldn't?
Because I wouldn't want to be a part of that. I wouldn't want to be.
As YNW Bortlen does not even give a firm yes or no answer by using his voice. Instead, he shakes his head no, as this is because if it was YNW Melly who did this crime, Bortlen would obviously know that. Saying no to the officer using his voice could have caused his voice to come out at a different volume than what he's been using throughout the interrogation, and that would be due to him lying, which would then obviously be an indicator to police that Bortlen knows a lot more than what he's sharing. However, the officer would then want to know details of the in-the-moment actions made during the drive-by. How was YNW Bortlen driving? Did he crash into anything? Did he see any faces or license plates, etc.?
And I'm driving, ducking for my life, trying to make sure I don't get hit. And you telling me, you telling me about shit. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit. I'm driving. I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit. You know what I'm saying? What I'm gonna be worried about? You know what I'm saying?
I know it's not for you to worry about.
Shit crazy, bro.
But if you tell me it happened there's got to be some evidence there. There's going to be broken glass, just like there's broken glass over here from when you guys open the doors and stuff like that. Okay, there's going to be broken glass over there when the windows got out. There's going to be casings from the people at your car. Okay, there's going to be evidence over there. Okay, right now there's nothing. I kind of think I know what happened because I got information.
As YNW Bortlen explaining the situation to the officer, the actions that he was making, it was very clear the officer was not buying a single word he said. As the officer even stated, he believes he knows what happened, but he doesn't even want to say. With the interrogation being leaked this week, many found it very weird how YNW Melly's retrial is now set for October 9th, which was announced one day after the interrogation was released. As you need to remember, YNW Bortlen's trial is now set for October 2nd, having Bortlen's trial begin 1 week before Melly's retrial. As sources reveal, the state is doing this in a way to give YNW Bortlen a chance to make a plea deal. That week's worth of trial before YNW Melly's begins is going to be structured in a way to give Bortlen a chance to plead. Tell the truth of what happened to Sack Chaser and Juvie, and not go to prison for life for a crime that you didn't commit. The state is very smart, as moments after the YNW Melly mistrial was granted, Bortlen would then tweet something on an account he has never used in over a year.
And ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, she's a juror inquiry form. It indicates that after further discussions, reviewing the evidence and speaking freely amongst the jurors, we are still unable to reach a unanimous decision. So at this time, what I am going to do is just declare mistrial, and again, I want to thank you very much for your time and attention. It's very much appreciated. You're free to go. All right, score time. Thank you, ladies.
As a report would go on and share, YNW Bortlen tweets a mysterious message on the same day as YNW Melly's mistrial was declared. The tweet shares, "Mind games don't work on people like me," alongside a handshake emoji as if he's accepting some sort of deal. Now, during the entire YNW Melly trial, Melly's lawyers were playing mind games with the jury, hinting towards Bortlen being the guilty one and not YNW Melly. Now that the mistrial is granted, Melly is looking more innocent innocent than ever, YNW Bortlen is now subtweeting the mind games phrase. Throughout the entire Melly trial, his lawyers, they were saying from day one, Bortlen is the suspicious one. The opening statements to the jury on day one of the YNW Melly trial, 15 minutes into the day, had Melly's lawyer telling the jury that Bortlen was the one with powder residue on his hands and more.
Melly's lies, those were his lies. Cortland Henry shows up at Memorial Hospital, Miramar. You don't see him sitting there, but where you will see him sitting is in the driver's seat of a car with two bodies, car riddled with bullets. And when he shows up with a change of clothing, change of shirt, powder residue on his hands, evidencing that he has discharged a firearm. And he lies. He lies about where the incident occurred. He lies about how it occurred. And he lies about not having a phone. I think it was Miss Bradley herself who said, everybody has a phone in his pocket. Not Cortland Henry. There were 3 phones.
Revealing that it's always been YNW Bortlen that was telling the lies to the feds in the interrogation video I shared earlier, and that Bortlen was the one with powder residue on his hands, and he was the last one with Sack Chaser and Juvie when they sadly passed. As it would continue getting worse for Bortlen, we would then see a forensic scientist that covered the passings in the trial go into further detail about Bortlen's powder residue on his hand.
So the right hand of Cortland Henry contained 0 particles characteristic of shot residue and 2 component particles, and the left hand contained 1 particle characteristic of shot residue and 1 2-component particle.
Okay. And can you explain to us what that means?
Basically, overall, there was shot residue present on the hands.
With how YNW Melly's lawyers were treating YNW Bortlen's name throughout his trial, Bortlen now might not have any other option but to snitch on YNW Melly. He's gonna want to look out for himself and give immunity by snitching on Melly. Ever since YNW Melly was originally locked up in the year 2018, it has always been YNW Group's main priority to make Melly look like the innocent one. As even in the lawsuit against YNW Melly, it goes and reads, Defendant 100K Track assisted Melly and Bortlen with the collection and disposal of the firearm that was used to commit the crime. As even 100K Track would mention in an interview with DJ Akademiks, YNW Melly has great defenses on his side, and it's mainly because of no firearm being found.
He built a real great solid team away from just being innocent because he wouldn't do such a crime. He prepared himself and got a proper, defense. Their job is to handle themselves in trial, not on social media. You guys are taking it that way. If they say they got DNA in a car, I'm just gonna tell you, Melly DNA was found in the car. You're gonna think, yeah, his DNA was found in the car the day of the. Oh, he jumped in a car and his DNA was in the car. He did it, okay? But you're not gonna put the fact that this was his car for 6-7 months on those documents and dockets and just automatically be like, yo, he's fried. You don't even know what the defense is. You don't even know what the rebuttal is. You don't even know why that situation occurred. You hear ballistics flying, you don't know what the defense is. You hear this, you hear that. You get what I'm saying?
I'm gonna be honest.
Yes, YNW Melly does have solid defenses for himself. However, his defenses make YNW Bortlen look extremely guilty, which starts with the no firearm even being found, as Melly gives this sort of reaction to it being revealed during trial.
Why not?
So the first thing is I didn't have a firearm, so I can't know which I'm going to use in order to replicate any of my tests. So I can't make tests for this determination because I don't know what was used.
Okay. Do you have a...
Including the testimony from YNW Melly's 6th grade best friend, Adrian Davis, who would reveal that YNW Melly was never even at the crime scene, leaving basically YNW Bortlen all by himself with Sack Chaser and Juvie on the night.
Are you 100% sure that Melly got into the red Mitsubishi to go home?
Yes.
Are you 100% sure that this young man learned of his friends at the exact same time you learned of it?
Yes.
And that was at the house.
Yes.
Are you 100% sure that when people were getting on the phone, that this young man was looking for his phone to call people?
Yes.
As Davis would even double down his claims of YNW Melly not even being there, sharing that YNW Melly was picked up by the YNW members that were driving in the red vehicle at the recording studio, as they needed somebody with a set of house keys to allow them into the YNW crib. There was only 2 sets of keys, and by him revealing this, it basically stated YNW Bortlen was never even planning on going home.
Okay, so the only 2 people you know who had a key to the house was this young man.
Yes.
And Cortland Henry.
Yes.
Did you see this young man unlock the door of the house?
Yes.
Who was the last person to get out of the red Mitsubishi to go inside the house?
Trayvon, he was in the cot still asleep.
Did you see where Melly went?
To his room.
And where was his bedroom?
When you first walked in the house, it came Mrs. right down the left.
Okay. This is a 1 or 2 story house?
2.
With Melly and Bortlen the only 2 owning a pair of house keys, they needing to pick up YNW Melly, it basically reveals Bortlen was never planning on returning home with Sack Chaser and Juvie, as Adrian Davis claims he saw YNW Melly walk to the front door, open the door and walk straight to his bedroom to go to sleep. As while sleeping for roughly an hour or 2, members in the YNW crib began screaming, as they were starting to learn what happened to Sack Chaser and Juvie. The only YNW member not in that house other than Sack Chaser and Juvie was YNW Bortlen.
Did there come a time in the early morning hours that you were woken up and heard some distressing news?
Yes.
What did you hear?
That Sack and Juvie were.
When you heard that, did you see Melly in the house?
Yes.
Did you see Melly how he was dressed in the house?
Yes.
What was he wearing?
Shorts and a t-shirt, I think.
Okay.
Adrian Davis once again giving YNW Melly an alibi, saying that he saw YNW Melly exit his bedroom inside of the YNW crib. This then reveals YNW Bortlen was the only one with Sack Chaser and Juvie on this night. However, there is some hard evidence against YNW Melly, and this is due to the Jeep that they were driving in, as the vehicle looked nothing like a normal vehicle that has gone through a drive-by. Sergeant Williams would reveal after investigating the car, there is no way this could have been a drive-by.
Assignment, which is to determine if this is a drive. And my determination was that this is not a drive-by, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. All of these rounds are done. One is done at a stationary position. The at a stationary position when all but one of these rounds are going in. The one round that has some movement in it, which is round site L here, the actually moving in that to create the little bit of a that you see there.
Okay, a lot of information in that answer, so let's break it down a little bit. You mentioned so I'm gonna zoom in on site F.
He took note of every single hole inside of the car and used what is known as the stick method to find out how the holes were created, including the direction of where it could have came from and the angle.
Number, you said 17 outside the car. How many rounds were inside of the car?
3.
And can you exclude the for Mr. Williams and Mr. Thomas is coming from outside of the car?
Yes. From the driver's side back seat.
As to the shot that was Christopher Thomas, where did that come from?
Driver's side back seat.
No. Is it possible for there to have been 2 inside that car?
No.
Why not?
There is no time.
Sergeant Williams is guaranteeing the crime must have happened from somebody sitting in the back left seat. They then called up YNW Juvie's mother to the stand during trial. She had to confirm who was sitting where inside of the car.
Can you state your name, your full legal name for the jury?
Leon Phillips.
Okay. And are you related to one of the victims in this case?
Yes, I am.
How so?
I'm his mother.
And who is that?
Christopher Thomas.
Pause it at 2:19:15. Ms. Phillips, did you see who entered into the occupants who entered into that gray Jeep?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a yes?
Yes.
Do you recognize where your son entered that gray Jeep?
Yes.
Which seat, if you can identify for the jury?
He got in the back seat on the right hand side.
Did you recognize the individual that got into the back seat on the left side, the rear driver's side?
Yes.
And who was that individual?
Jamel.
And Jamel, is that the defendant, Jamel Demons?
Yes, ma'am.
With the jury hearing the crime must have happened from somebody inside of the vehicle, alongside Juvie's mom revealing where YNW Melly was seated, we would then hear from YNW Juvie's father, where he believed YNW Melly was guilty ever since the beginning.
From the day one, I believe that Melly was responsible for my son on October 26th when I first heard the story, because his explanation when I finally talked to him in Cortland on a FaceTime, their response and how they was reacting, they showed no remorse. They didn't act like they was grieving, like they lost a best friend or nothing. They was, in my opinion, they was in the best spirits. They wasn't reacting to, they act like they didn't have to take a loss at all. That's how I took it. And then when I was talking to them, I still had in the back of my mind that something's not right.
As this is due to a Facebook live stream that occurred only roughly 9 hours after the passing of Sack Chaser and Juvie, where YNW Melly and Bortlen can be seen in a parking lot looking as if it's the best day of their lives.
You see him? Melly still turned regardless of what happened this early morning. He's still out here being very positive. Turned still. Hey! No, still turned. Regardless of what happened, you already know.